Hi, welcome to Psyched with Rena. In today's episode, we're going to talk about improving our relationships with our parents as we are back home during the COVID season. Now, this is part of a three-part series. The previous video was on setting boundaries with your family and how they can relate to you as an adult. And the next video will be on what happens when our younger self shows up and we end up acting like a kid when we're at home, how to work with that. But let me introduce myself. I'm Rena Chinn. I'm a psychotherapist in Seattle, and I primarily work with people of color, and especially Asian Americans. Now, in the COVID season, what I've seen is many young adults moving back home, especially Asian Americans. This may be because you are unemployed, because you can work from home for many months and want to save on rent, or because you're in college and all of your classes are online. Whatever the case, you're a young adult and you didn't expect to be living back home with your parents at this time. And part of the challenge is how to navigate those relationships now that you are an emerging adult and you're not a kid anymore. If you look at the video before this, we talk about setting boundaries with your family. Tactful ways to communicate to them your desires, which may be different than their choices or values. In this video, we're going to talk about more improving your relationship with your parents. And the first thing I want to bring up is the idea of boundaries with your parents. In addition to them respecting your boundaries on what you eat, when you go to sleep, what you wear, all those things, we also want to be mindful of our parents' boundaries. Now, most likely, we are living in their home, and so we are sort of a guest. So it is necessary that we respect the boundaries that they set. For example, if they say, take off your shoes when you come in the house, or please don't smoke in the house, or during COVID, they may have some restrictions on your external interaction with people because of danger for their own health. Now, these may push against what you want to do, but it's important to realize that if we are in their home, we need to take into account their desires and wants as well, and respect their boundaries that they can have control over because it is their own home. If you're interested in more conversations about boundaries, please subscribe here and press the notification bell so you'll hear if there are more videos. Now, one thing that's critical to be able to respect your parents' boundaries is to have a sense of developing empathy for them. By empathy, I mean being able to sit and see things from their perspective. Brene Brown identifies 4 different characteristics for empathy. One is being able to take the other's perspective. Another is being able to set aside judgment. The other is being able to identify what emotion is going on and to be able to articulate that. As we can empathize with our parents, what they're actually desiring, it may be easier for us to navigate balancing our boundaries and their boundaries. If you are seeing a clash in boundaries in your household, I would love to hear comments below on where those are occurring so we can address them. The other idea, besides looking at your parents' boundaries, is to figure out how you want to participate in the household as an adult. I have a client, Valerie, who talks about how her parents treat her like a kid. They tell her when to come down for dinner. She doesn't drive, and they have to drive her places and criticize her purchases. And part of the problem is that we need to also take on characteristics of an adult if we want to be considered an adult. So I want you to look at what you're doing when you're living home with your parents. How do you take responsibility or participate in the household? Do you, for example, cook meals for the family? Do you do laundry for the family? Do you participate in some of the cleaning up or help with other chores? Do you pay rent if you're employed? These are ways that we take ownership as an adult to show that we are part of the cohort. We're not a guest and we're not a kid. So I would examine what ways you want to show them that you are actually taking on more responsibility. which is part of being an adult and being treated as an adult. So we've talked about respecting your parents' boundaries and having empathy for what they want, in addition to having boundaries with them and setting your own. We've also talked about being more of an adult in terms of the tasks and responsibilities you take at home if you want to be seen in a different light. The other aspect I see mostly with young adults is that sometimes there's the tendency for young adults to put up walls in terms of the information they want to share with their families. And these walls tend to cut off or deaden communication. Why is that? It could be because your parents might tend to interrogate you or nag you for certain things, and you just don't want to give them any more input or data to work with. I would say that you would be missing out on a sense of connection with them, though. I have several clients who have these dead, short, one-way conversations with their parents. One client, Hannah, will often talk to her parents and she will answer in one-word sentences. Her family might call and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" "Fine." "How is work going?" "Fine." "Are you eating well?" "Yeah." "What did you do today?" "Nothing much." And the conversations are just very stilted, and they're lacking content and connection. Now, many Asian Americans develop this technique, and young people in general can develop it if they're used to feeling intruded upon, maybe feeling nagged at or judged, and so they would give as little information as possible. What that means is that your relationship with your parent then doesn't go very deep. It's just a mechanical coexisting in the home. I believe genuinely that your parents want to connect with you, especially if you're living in the same space. So please think through what are areas or ways that you can connect with your parents. I'd love to hear ideas below, but you can also think about small areas of your life that you're willing to share that can be current, that they will have something to follow up on. For example, one client can say, "Oh, I'm doing fine. I am meeting friends tonight for a game night on Dungeons and Dragons online." Or, "I am going to a convention online next week to look for jobs for programmers." If you can share something relevant in your life, it gives them a space to follow up with you. Then they can say, "Oh, how was that Dungeons and Dragons game? What did you think of the Grace Hopper convention?" There is opportunity for them to connect. But while we leave the conversations as just yes or no, we keep our goings on very private, then there is very little sense of connection. The other piece in terms of how you connect might also be giving a reflection on what you like or dislike, so they can get more of a sense of your personality. Instead of, like if they say, "How are classes?" instead of saying "fine," how about saying, "Well, I really like this one," or "I'm worried about this one," or "I don't like this instructor," to give them a flavor for your personality, what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. It will be small steps like that that will build conversations that can flow, that they can have a better sense of knowing who you are and what you're up to. To do this, you would need to suspend your judgment that they want to bring you down and correct you and make you feel bad. This may be the case sometimes in that they want to share their advice that they think is the best thing for you. But honestly, I feel like a lot of the desire is just to know what you're up to. I hope these tips help you in working with parents while you're living together during this COVID season. If you'd like to hear more, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for new publications. I usually publish on Thursdays in the morning. And please, just tell others, if you know others who are struggling living at home in this new season, please forward this to them. I will talk to you next week. This is Rena Chinn signing off with Psyched with Rena. Bye-bye.